Late on Friday, June 9, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu suspended the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele. How will markets react to the news, and what's the future of leadership at the CBN? Good morning and welcome to Business Week. Over the next hour, I'll be bringing you some of the top stories and events that made global headlines during the week. I'm Rolake Akingbefilani. Please stay tuned. First, let's begin with a look at how the markets performed this week. To Europe, look at Europe markets as at Friday, the 9th of June. Euro Stoxx 600 closed at an all-share index of 460.0, down by 0.15%. In London, the FTSE closed at an all-share index of 7,562.36, down by 0.49%. The markets in Germany saw the DAX close at 15,949.84. Also down by 0.25%, while the CAC 40 in Paris ended the week at 7,213.14, down by 0.12%. And finally, Spain IBEX 35 closed at 0.31% lower with an all-share index of 9,309.7. To the Nigeria stock markets now. At the end of the last weekday of trading on the NSE, a total of 574.73 million shares in 6,595 deals, corresponding to a market value of 6.08 billion were traded. That's quite a huge number of deals from last week's close of trading. The current market capitalization of the Nigeria Stock Exchange is 30.45 trillion naira. And finally, here's a look at Wall Street as at the 9th of June. And now for some top stories. Well, you heard me talk about it at the start of the show. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has suspended the central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, from office with immediate effect. That's according to a statement released late Friday by Willie Bassi, Director of Information at the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. According to the statement, the CBN governor's suspension is signal to the ongoing investigation of his office and the planned reforms in the financial sector of the economy. Mr. Emefiele has been directed to immediately hand over the affairs of his office to the Deputy Governor of Operations, Folashodun Adebisi Shonubi, who will act as a central bank governor pending the conclusion of investigations and the reforms. Still on the Nigerian President Tinubu, he's assented to the 2023 Electricity Act, which is a replacement for the Electricity and Power Sector Reform Act of 2005. The act will bring about the demonopolization of Nigeria's electricity generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity at the national level and empower states, companies, and individuals to generate, transmit, and distribute electricity. The Electricity Act was first passed in July 2022 under the Muhammadu Buhari administration. Well, Nigeria is not only the one suffering from fuel subsidy crises. Angolan President João Lourenço has fired the country's economic coordination minister and replaced him with the central bank governor in the wake of deadly protests over a reduction in a fuel subsidy. The removal of Manuel Nunes Jr. was announced by the presidency in a statement on Thursday. It was not immediately clear who would succeed Jose de Lima Massano as central bank governor, but last week's fuel subsidy cut meant the gasoline price would almost double to 300 kwanzas, that's about 0.47 cents, per litre from 160 kwanza, although it would still be below the market rate. Local media quoted Nunes Jr. as saying last week that the move was aimed at reining in government spending. The extent of Nigerian banks' exposure to the Ghanaian economic and fiscal crisis through subsidiaries operating in the country and investments in Ghana bonds has been revealed in a report released by ratings agency Agusto & Co. According to the report titled Ghana Debt Crisis and the Impact on Nigerian Banks, as of December 31 last year, Nigerian banks with subsidiaries across Africa had direct and indirect Ghana Eurobond holdings of about $1.7 billion, which accounted for an estimated 3% of the industry's total investment securities. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has directed the National Economic Council led by Vice President Kashim Shettima to devise an approach and begin the process of working on interventions to mitigate the impact of the subsidy removal on Nigerians. Meanwhile, the president held a meeting Thursday with oil marketers amidst the controversy and protests trailing the removal of subsidy on PMS known as petrol. The marketers also promised to donate hundreds of mass transit buses that will run on compressed natural gas in a bid to manage the effects of higher fuel prices on Nigerians. The TUC, Labour Union of Nigeria, has also called on the government to review the country's minimum wage following meetings held with unions during the week with the government at the presidential villa at Aso Rock in Abuja. The International Air Transport Association has revealed that Nigeria tops the list of countries in which airlines funds blocked from repatriation account for 68% worldwide. IATA said the airline's funds blocked from repatriation increased from 1.5 billion in April 2022 to 2.27 billion in April 2023. The association warned that the rapidly rising levels of airline funds blocked from leaving the country pose a danger to airline connectivity in affected markets like Nigeria, as it said the increase amount to 47%. IATA listed the countries with the highest debt as Nigeria, Bangladesh, and Algeria. Well, in the US, the regulator of the Securities Exchange has requested a temporary freeze on assets linked to Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, one day after it sued the company on more than a dozen charges. In a filing late on Tuesday, the Securities and Exchange Commission requested a temporary asset freeze on several Binance-linked entities, as well as repatriation and other relief for customer assets held on Binance's US platform. The regulator had accused Binance of a range of securities violations, including mishandling customer funds and misleading investigators and regulators. After years of verbal sparring, court filings, and bad blood, Saudi-backed LIV Golf and the PGA Tour have announced a shock merger in the deal that will see the Saudi-backed fund behind LIV Golf take a 20% stake in the mergers union. The deal ends all litigation between the two sides. Many players are, however, furious after staying loyal to the established tours by turning down lucrative offers to go to LIV. The LIV Golf Series is bankrolled by the Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund, and critics have accused it of being a vehicle for the country to attempt to improve its reputation in the face of criticism of its human rights record. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, however, defended the merger. Singapore's new carbon exchange has traded 12,000 tons of emissions on its first trading day on Thursday as the city-state bets big on the growth of the industry. Chevron, Vitol, Standard Chartered, and China's CICC all traded credits on CIX, an exchange hoping to challenge US-based CME Group in establishing a benchmark price for the voluntary carbon trading. CIX, a joint venture between Singapore Exchange state investor Temasek and banks DBS and Standard Chartered, said the initial price established for carbon credits was $5.36 per ton, 4 times that for similar products at CME, the world's largest futures exchange. Now in the UK, British telco firm Vodafone and Hong Kong-based conglomerate CK Hutchison are in the final stages of agreeing to merge their British operations, with an announcement expected early next week. That's according to sources from Reuters. Vodafone will own 51% and Hutchison 49% of the combined group, which could be worth around $18.6 billion, including debt. The tie-up will create Britain's biggest mobile operator with about 27 million customers and is expected to face intense scrutiny from regulators who have previously opposed deals that reduce the number of networks in major markets from 4 to 3. Now, following downward revisions to growth in both the first quarter and the final quarter of 2022, the Eurozone economy entered a technical recession in the first 3 months of 2023. That's according to figures released on Thursday by the European Statistics Agency, Eurostat. According to a statement by the organization, the first quarter GDP for the 20-country Eurozone decreased by 0.1% from the fourth quarter of 2022, while increasing by 1.0% from the previous year. Now, big news for tech giant Apple, which has unveiled a long-rumored headset that will place its users between the virtual and real world. After years of speculation, Apple CEO Tim Cook hailed the arrival of the slick goggles dubbed Vision Pro at the company's annual developers conference held at the Cupertino, California campus that Apple's late co-founder Steve Jobs helped design. Although Apple executives provided an intensive preview of the headset's capabilities during the final half hour of Monday's event, consumers will have to wait before they can get their hands on the $3,500 device. Well, that's quite a hefty price. Fascinating stuff there from Apple. Well, China's 6 biggest state banks cut deposit rates on Thursday as Beijing searches for ways to boost growth. Lenders including Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, China Construction Bank, and Bank of China are now offering 2.45% and 2.5% respectively on 3- and 5-year time deposits, down by 15 basis points from September. That's according to their websites. Similar cuts were seen at the Postal Savings Bank of China, the Agricultural Bank of China, and the Bank of Communications. The rate cuts, the second such reduction since last year, reflect a growing concern that the world's second largest economy has not rebounded as strongly as expected after lifting its restrictive zero-COVID measures. Finally, the EU is considering a mandatory ban on member states using companies deemed to present a security risk in their 5G networks, including Chinese telecoms group Huawei, according to officials with knowledge of the discussions. The move comes as concerns rises in Brussels that some national governments are dragging their feet on the issue. The move also comes in response to the bloc's divided response to the perceived threat from the Chinese telecoms company.